Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Hello guys. Unfortunately, it is quite overcast and cloudy today, so this lighting may be an absolute mess, but I wanted to whip out my old camera instead of just the vlogging one today and use it because I know that the mic is better and that I really don't care about that. So I always forget because I love my little vlogging camera. Plus I like only vlog, but whatever. So before we dive into the recent reads video I have, we're going to talk about 18 books that I read in February and March because y'all have requested that I sit down and chat about them. So we're going to do that in a little bit of a different way. Before we do that, I want to jump into the sponsor of today's video really quick.
Squarespace is the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. Stand out with a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything: your products, content you create, and even your time. Utilize Squarespace email campaigns to drive sales and engage your audience. Introduce your brand to new subscribers with welcome emails, announce upcoming sales, or send out a discount code. There are built-in analytics to measure the impact of each send. They have such flexible website templates. It's so easy to get started by choosing a template and then customizing it to look and do whatever it is you need or want. And a huge help is their analytics system. This is where you can gather and use all kinds of insights to aid in helping to grow your business. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you are ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/oliviareadsalatte to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you once again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video.
Okay, so now that the housekeeping is done and we are over it, I just can't stop looking at how pale I look. Okay, whatever, we're going with it. So I'm gonna go in order of 1 to 5 stars and start at 1 stars first, and that's gonna just be how we go through these. So I'm probably not gonna have a whole lot to say about the beginning books, but when we get to the end, don't worry, you won't be able to shut me up. So let's start with our 1-star reads. So yeah, we only had one star, which is really good, and that was The Last Miss Parrish. I know that this is some people's fave, and I am so sorry that you have not read other— I'm just kidding. It just wasn't that great to me. This one is about a woman who kind of integrates herself into another woman's life in hopes of becoming her, and you're just following that journey. And there is quite the twist, I will say, but I read too similar of one recently that apparently now has questionable ties to this book that I did not know about at the time. So I don't know about all of that. I'm obviously not gonna name the book that I think that it is in this video. Y'all can chat about it in the comments if you want, because it would spoil both books. Like if you've read one, then you've kind of read the other type of vibe. So it's a little bit different, but I think I liked the other one better because of the motive and all of those things. So this one, the writing style was fun at first. It was very like quick and blah, blah, blah. And the other book I've read by Liv Constantine is The Senator's Wife, and it was so over descriptive and boring and super like a slog to get through that I was like, okay, this is a great turnaround, much more interested, easier to fly through. And then it got old really fast, and some of the dialogue was incredibly cringy. Just the things I've never really related to people who are like, oh my god, you have to suspend your disbelief for this thriller, because I like doing that. Apparently I don't like doing that all the time though, because in this one, genuinely these conversations felt like an interview of our main character to all these other characters that were involved, but we were hearing it for like the audience benefit. And it just was, it was a really weird way to do things. I just didn't love it. I don't recommend it. But if you want to try it, your local library is ready and waiting for you, and that's how I'd recommend it. Then we have our 2-star reads. Again, we only have one of these, which is quite nice. However, it is not the book I thought it was going to be. Flame and Shadow was a 2-star read for me. I see a lot of people either really loved it and are defending it with their lives, or other people are just like, meh. Anyways, that's like the two sides. So I don't know who the people who loved it are defending it from. But if you wanna have a little good time, go on Goodreads and just fighting for their lives in those comments. This is the third and final, thank God, book in the Crescent City trilogy as it stands now. The main characters of this one, and I think that's good. I think that's good. This book needed another at least 1 or 2 rounds of edits, I think. It was somehow both overwritten and under-explained, but then it was also boring and slow, but jam-packed with action. The thing is, when you have back-to-back action, it begins to like lose any importance and action-y feeling because every single scene is like that, so it doesn't feel any different than the other scene previous or next. It's just great. Another one, superb. So yeah, super big letdown. I think this is the worst series by this author. It's just not great, and I guess I'm of the minority. I thought that Earth and Blood was the best. Sky and Breath was good. The ending is what made, I think, the whole book. And then this one was just, what are we doing? I did enjoy some aspects of, if you know what was gonna happen, you know, like the big thing everyone was excited about at the end of the book. I liked how that was handled, but it was still, I don't know, this main character, I just wanted to stop being in her head. I did not want to read a single thought she had. She just turned into all of the bad character traits of Aileen from Throne of Glass. Alien? No, Aileen. Alien? What am I saying? Like a flying saucer? But it was not, no. It was a no. And I don't recommend the series. Next, we have our 3-star reads. So I have the little graphic pulled up because we had 6 of these, which is very exciting. This is when I was going through fantasy and thrillers like candy. Honestly, still in my thriller game right now, so that's nice. But the first one is House of Sky and Breath. This one I originally rated 5 stars when I read it the first time, whenever it came out. Now I give it a higher end 3-star. It really is the ending that makes this book as great as it is. I think that it is another just overwritten book. You can just tell when an author gets to just write whatever they want now. Like the editor doesn't really edit or they don't actually have to pay attention. That's what this felt like. However, I do not enjoy her writing enough to want to read this. And I don't like the romance. I don't even particularly like in this book I still like the main character, but I don't like the love interest. And then of course in the third book I then don't like anyone. So what were we there for? I don't know. But this one is still better than the other one. But by much, who's to say? I will not be rereading this trilogy. That's what has been decided for me. This reread was so incredibly not fun. At first I was excited because I was hyped up about the third book, but it fizzled out so fast because I was like, wait a second. I must have been just gobbling this book up because I was so excited for a new release, which is what happened with Flame and Shadow 2, that it really did kind of put some rose-colored glasses over my eyes while I was reading. And then when I stopped, I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Then we have Her Radiant Curse, which this is a very high 3 stars, but the only reason I really think that it's gonna be a struggle for number 1, a first book in a series, or number 2, a standalone book to ever get higher than 3.5, 3.75 from me, because I'm just such a series person. When they're done well, let's like not talk about the ones I just talked about. Obviously they are not the case, but Her Radiant Curse is it's not necessarily a standalone, but I view it as kind of a companion to this author's other series, and it did make me really want to go read that because I will say she has got great prose. I love her writing style. It was so descriptive and not in an overdone purpley prose kind of way, but it was very flowery and just, it was enjoyable to just read the writing. Plus the story we were getting was also interesting and fun. This one is about, how do I say? It's 2 sisters And one of them is viewed as like this almost goddess-like person, and then the other one has a curse on her from this magical mythical being that everyone else swears wasn't real, but she obviously encountered because she has this curse. And the father then sets up this kind of like bachelorette situation where all these kings and princes and all these people come from all over the aisles to try to win the hand of one that everyone really likes and doesn't have the curse. And it just kind of turns into a really beautiful story about the sisters' relationship and self-love and all of that. The romance in here was super unnecessary, and I honestly think that it took away from what was really good about this story. And not took away in that it like demoted the story, it just took away like screen time. Like it literally took away time that we could have been doing something else. And for that, I took a little off because I was like, I don't really like this, I don't care about this. The ending did make me tear up. Didn't think that would happen. I'm not really a crier in books, but that happened, which was really nice. Writing, I'll tell you what, I mean, she can write a book. And it made me really excited to read the series that this character who has the curse on her, she's another main proponent character in the other series. So I am excited to get to that at some point, but I would not say that this is the best book I've read by this author. That being said, this one being a 3.75 and it's still not like the best, she's a good author. She is a good author, because even like what I would consider her best is some people's like peak. So I did enjoy it. I enjoyed my time. I just think, again, standalone fantasy is not really for me. And then we go to our first book in a series, which also tends to not be my thing, and that is Empire of Silence. This is the first book in the Sun Eater saga series, whatever we're calling it. And I enjoyed it. It very much did give me the energy and main character likeness to Darrow from Red Rising. If Darrow was not like vengeful and he was just kind of whiny. That would be what our main character in Empire of Silence was like, which wasn't bad, because honestly, me too. Like, I would be whiny and complaining if I was essentially like almost a prince and then I tried to escape and got thrown into like trying to be a gladiator on this whole other planet in the solar system. Like, I would not be happy about that. And so it was a very realistic depiction probably of what that would be like, but I don't want to read about that. I don't want to read about reality. Hello, I'm in fiction for a reason. However, I can say I do see a lot of potential, especially with how this book ended. I think that it could really go on to be a really great series. I liked the writing. It was a little overwritten. It's kind of a trend that I'm noticing in books, especially recently published books, and then also some of the more indie stuff that gets picked up by publishers if they don't kind of go through and with a fine comb and just edit some things out and whatnot. I've noticed overwriting is something and maybe I'm just changing my taste in how much I like description and quote unquote overwriting, because in some people's case it's totally fine, I don't even notice it, and someone else might notice it. For example, I just finished the newest Holly Jackson book, which we will talk about next month, and I don't think it was overwritten at all, but a lot of people did, and so maybe I'm just, my little tastes are changing. Maybe that's the case. But even if that is the case, I still think it was overwritten. And I do think it's on the higher end of the spectrum of a 3-star, because I am still excited to pick up the next one. And I just think there is a lot of potential for this in a sci-fi fantasy vibe. It was a very readable sci-fi, which has not been the case for a lot of sci-fi I've tried to read. It almost like seems like the genre likes to be just a little bit unattainable, and I enjoyed that this one felt like the main focus was this character's story, not how sci-fi can we make this, which is a very random subjective thought, but that's how I review. But it was entertaining. It was a good little time. It didn't take me as long to read as I thought it would, and definitely if I had been able to really sit down with it for a long time, I would have read it a lot faster. and I would have flown through it. It wasn't one that I was putting down because I was bored, let's say that. But overall, I just think that it's one of those ones where you can see the potential, you see the glimmer within it, but we're not quite there yet. And I think it's just a lot of fleshing out and growing the characters have to do. And with everyone we were introduced at the end of the book and kind of where we settled on and where we are potentially going, I think that I'm gonna probably really enjoy the series. But the first one seems like one that I will look back on fondly, and maybe if I reread it knowing what I know for the next 6 books or whatever, I will enjoy it more. But for now, it was just like, okay, let's see what else you got. Like, let's see what else is gonna happen, and then we'll judge. Next, I read The Hike, and this is a new release thriller. This one is kind of, I still think it's a thriller, but it feels more like a thriller in the way Big Little Lies was a thriller, and just kind of this almost women's fiction overlapping with thriller elements thing. So it's this group of women who are best friends, and they go on this annual trip together, and one of them really has gotten in touch with like loving to hike and nature and things I don't get, and she wants to go on this big old hike in what country? Wouldn't you like to know? I believe it's in the Netherlands. And it's a super tumultuous mountain that's either like you're gonna have a real good time or you're gonna struggle. And she's like, I can do this. Spoiler alert, they could not do this. Well, you'll see. So they all go and they go to hike, and then all of a sudden there's someone in the woods with them, and there is not supposed to be. And then there's some suspicious activity that they find, and they go investigate, and they find more, and then there's more people, and it's just kind of like an eerie, creepy vibe. It's definitely more character focused of a story, especially between the relationships within the friendship group, and I liked that. I did think something that happens at the end that's supposed to be definitely like a big moment was not a big moment. It did not need to happen. It was a little bit too much for me, but it was still a fun time. So I think if you enjoyed Big Little Lies and kind of this just, again, women's fiction that has more of a thriller, a little bit high stakes of a plot in comparison to like what a lot of women's fiction is about, I would say that's the genre overlap. And I would not say that I don't regret reading it, but it's not one that's going to come right to the forefront of my brain when someone asks me for thriller recs. Like, it's just not going to be that. But if you want like a very low chill thriller recs, I would say this one is that. Then I read Tress of the Emerald Sea, and I did a little vloggy vlog over on Patreon for the book club for that one. This is one of Brandon Sanderson's little secret mystery projects I'm finally getting around to reading after they have all been out and another one has yet been released and put on Kickstarter, which yes, I did buy. Nothing to say. Good. So this one we have Tress, who is living on an island, living her little life. She's got a little romance going for herself, but then something happens with that romance, and she ends up going on a little adventure when she has never left the island before to be the savior of someone. And I thought it was a cute, fun time. I liked the writing style. I would definitely recommend this to you if you enjoyed The Princess Bride and you enjoy the storytelling style and kind of like jokiness and almost banter between you and the narrator of Good Omens. Those are the two that I thought of almost immediately after listening to just about 2 hours of this on the audiobook. It was a really good audiobook. I liked all the voices that the narrator did. I will say I did not know it was supposed to be kind of like not inspired, but spurred on by watching The Princess Bride. And I didn't know that he was aiming for that and Good Omens, but he obviously nailed it because in the, what was it called? The author's note afterwards, he mentions that those are the exact by title 2 things he's going for, and I'm like, oh, well, you did it, sir. You did it. And it was a fun little time. Then I read The Coworker by Frida McFadden, and this one we have our main character who is working at this like vitamin company. It's very much an MLM, and she notices that her coworker, who she shares like a cubicle wall with, doesn't show up for work on time. And it's very weird and strange because that coworker is like super intense about just being on time to work. She has her routine. She knows what she likes and keeps to that kind of thing. And we are then going through the mind of our main character as she is trying to investigate this on her own because no one's taking it seriously. And she's trying to find out what's going on, what happened, why is this happening. And I would say this is a popcorn thriller for sure. This one, I think all of the Frida books that I've read so far, it might just be 2 that I've read, The Housemaid and this, but they were both very entertaining, but I wouldn't necessarily say that they're good thrillers, but I think that they're very good at being super entertaining. And like, I didn't want to put it down, kept picking it up. When I would pick it up, I would literally see like, oh my God, 3 hours has passed and I'm almost done with this book already. Like, that was the kind of feeling. I really liked it. The writing style is not great, but it's probably some of the best writing I have seen in what I would consider like a popcorn thriller, which, by the way, is not like, it's not a negative, it's not anything against the book, it's just kind of the expectations that I had for this were not like, oh my gosh, this is gonna blow my mind, I'm gonna be thinking about it for years on end. It's just not the case, but it is one that I would recommend because, again, it was very, 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 very entertaining, very fun, very fast-paced, and I had a really good time with it. So then we had 6 4-star reads. So the first one was Ali Hazelwood, There Is a Lash in My Eye. That's not the title, and Ali Hazelwood didn't do that. So the first one, anyways, was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This one is about a vampire and a werewolf. Urban fantasy kind of moment where they have to get married to stop basically a war breaking out between vampires and werewolves. Yeah, I loved it. It was so fun and entertaining. It was not a 5-star only because it just felt very surface level for some reason. I always think of Mariana Zapata romances when I think of a romance that really, I feel like I know the characters, or at least I know one of them, the one that we're in the head of. I just feel like I really know the character and I can relate to them, or I can see where they're coming from. I really like them. With these two, I just didn't feel like I really got anything out of it. It felt like a movie. I don't connect to movies, like, at all. I connect to books way easier, way more, but even then it's still a little bit harder for me. But this one I connected like a movie where I'm like, no, this is entertaining. I really like it. And I would say if you're someone who, maybe not the Vampire Diaries, but if you liked the originals, you know, the superior show of the two, I think you would have a good shot at liking this. No comment on what a lot of people are talking about in this book, because y'all know I don't read those scenes because they just are like, to me, but I did like the relationship. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a good, cute little time. It was just truly a silly, goofy, urban fantasy romance. That's what it was. And I don't know, just take it as that. And then the very end, I love when romance books that are in a series, like standalone series, they kind of set up the next couple. The way that she did it was so dramatic for no reason. It was very much giving like end of season 1 finale vibes, and I was so into it. So I'm excited for the next one, whenever that one's gonna come out. I really, really liked it. Then I picked up Paradise 1, which is a space horror, which I'm finding is a very niche genre that I absolutely freaking adore. So in this one, we have our main character who is going on this mission to go find out why this planet, Paradise 1, has kind of like lost contact, isn't communicating anymore. God, I hope I'm getting this plot right, because I really realized just now, I've come into consciousness for today, and I've realized half the time I forget the plot as soon as I close the last page of the book. I remember specific scenes of this book, but I don't know if I remember the very beginning plot. So we won't go too far in because there's a lot of like government cover up. There's a lot of conspiracy speculations going on. There's a lot of, wait, why are they involved? What did they do? And then you find out and you're like, oh my God. Like, there's a lot of that. So I won't tell too much. But she does go on this little mission with a spaceship and a little crew, and things just don't go how they need to go. They just don't go well. Ever. At any twist and turn that things could go badly, they do. The audiobook of this is really fun. There is, if this is a specific thing that you enjoy in books, there is kind of this crazy AI in here, and I love him. I love him so much. He is so chaotic. And it's a really long book. It's almost 700 pages, I want to say. And when I did get done reading it, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to read the next one. But now that I've got to sit with the book a while and I've kind of thought it over and I realize it's just a really long book. And that's why I think I didn't want to read the next one. And I don't even know the next one's out yet. But I just was like, oh my God, I was in there for so long. But the way that this one ends is like so much is set up, and I feel like we were getting all of this backstory that we needed to get to where book 2 is going, and I think I'm gonna read it. I think I will, I think I might, I think I will. Because there's just a lot of questions. I just have a lot of questions, there's a lot of setup that occurred, and I'm just kind of now left in this place of, okay, well I know enough, but I don't know enough. Like I know too much to let go of this, but I don't know enough and I need to keep going on. Like that's what I'm feeling. There is definitely a horror element to this. If you like a science fiction, spacey, horror vibe, I definitely would say this would be up your alley. Just know, she's a long book. And it does get a little bit repetitive at points. And so again, with the overwritten part, I do think a couple scenes or just the length of them could have been cut down, but overall, it was a pretty entertaining read, and it was pretty gross. Space horror doesn't really scare me in the same way that like a ghost or a demon or whatever would scare me, because I don't know. Space horror is just kind of like, this was just kind of gory, and I was like, ooh. But also, you wrote that really well, like, good job, but also, like, oh, that is gross. It reminded me a lot of a Mira Grant book, which is high praise, because that is a horror author I love, let me tell you. Next up, I read Rachel Hawkins' newest book, which is The Heiress. This one, we have a guy who is going back to where he grew up with his wife because, well, many reasons. To be honest, this was very much a Rachel Hawkins book in that it was very entertaining. The difference between this and a Frida book, I think, they're both very entertaining, but I think that I enjoy Rachel Hawkins' characters a lot more and the writing a lot more, so that's why there's like that, just a 1-star difference there. It just reminded me a little bit of Knives Out, if Knives Out turned into a thriller. But the main thing that keeps coming to mind, because as you're getting, so you get a chapter from the male main character, you get a chapter from the female main character, and then you get these letters interspersed, and we don't know who she's writing to, but it is the male main character's grandmother that has passed. And you're getting these stories from her all about her husbands, her multiple husbands, because it's always rumored that she was like, what is that called? Like a Black Widow kind of thing. And it's kind of like if Evelyn Hugo was a suspected serial killer, is the vibe that gives. And that's not a spoiler, that's just an energy. So I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really fun. It was interesting. It was definitely better than the last Rachel Hawkins book I read. I don't even remember what it is. I think my brain just took that out of my head for me, which is very nice of it. But I really did enjoy this, and I would recommend the audio. It was a very fast read. It almost didn't even feel like a fiction book just because of how it was written and how it was told via audio. It just felt very, almost like a podcast. Like the whole thing felt like a podcast though. And it felt like even the chapters that were actual prose and dialogue and the characters in the present, those felt like almost diary entries or retellings and statements that we would get in, you know, like a true crime podcast or something like that. And it was just a really fun time. So if you are into the vibe of like Evelyn Hugo, but is she killing people? And then Knives Out with the inheritance fighting and tussling, I would recommend this. Then I read A Fragile Enchantment, and this was just like a cute fun time. She is a seamstress that can weave magic into her dresses and whatnot, and she gets recruited by the current, well, I think he's the prince, but like king to be, to make a dress for the other prince's bride, because a wedding is coming up. And I do think if you're into Bridgerton with just kind of like the vibes, the little gossip column, you would like this, but make it have magic. But it's very low magic. It's just kind of like if our world had a little bit of a little dashing of magic to it. That's what this felt like. The writing was super sweet. It was very beautiful. It just felt like I don't know, this is so random and so weird, but there are just certain authors that I feel like their writing feels like a very cozy bakery and cafe. Like, it just smells like a good cup of coffee and a croissant, or like a Danish. Like, it just has that vibe to me. It's like Stephanie Garber, Laini Taylor. This author also fell into that, and it was just a fun time. And for it being a standalone, I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed it, but I really did enjoy it. Towards the end, I was kind of like, okay, I'm a little bit over this, but I tend to do that. Like, when the main relationship like happens, I'm like, okay, bored. Let's move on. Which is why, again, I'm a series person. But this was fun and I would recommend. Speaking of series, I finished up the Chestnut Springs series by reading Hopeless, and this is a low 4-star, but it was still a 4-star read. It was just a fun little time. This one is fake dating. It is Beau, who is one of the Eaton brothers. I don't know where he falls in the line of Eaton brothers, but the whole series follows each book as one of the brothers, and he is the final book that we get. He has just returned from overseas, and he has a lot of complex things that he is working through, like mentally and emotionally, because of that. And then our other main character, she is kind of the girl who's like on the wrong side of the tracks from that kind of family. And the Eaton family, who the guy is from, is on the other side, where like they're very well liked by the community, whereas her family's not well liked, so she's prejudged, predetermined by everybody because of who she's related to. They decide to fake get engaged so that his family will get off his back for not like going out and doing things that they think he needs to be doing, and then the rest of the town will stop being so unkind to her, and she can finally like kind of break out of the town and get this dream job that she wants to get and just move on, whatever. And of course they fell in love. I do think Elsie Silver's books are a little too long, but as most indie romance tends to be for me, I'm okay with it, because it's usually because of drama and tea, and so that's fine by me. So I would just say that if you are looking for a cute little KU romance series, this one is one that I recommend. I did not read Flawless, but I have seen that brother in every single book, and he just annoys me a little bit. Just don't like him all that much, so I'm okay not reading it. But everyone else that I read, which is every other book in the series, I've really liked, and I want to go back and read the series that came prior to this, and then her new one coming out as well, because I just really like the way she writes in general. And then I read a book called Swamp Santa by Jana DeLeon. We're not going to get too deep into this because this is book 16 or 17 in a cozy mystery series. It is the Misfortune cozy mystery series. She is a CIA agent who has to go undercover, and not even undercover, like she has to go to underground. Far underground, because she had like a mission go bad and people are trying to get her. So she ends up in sinful Louisiana, where she finds herself solving lots of little crimes going on around this community, teams up with 2 older women who are ex-military, and they like have just a time solving all these little crimes before the actual police department there can, which very much annoys them, which makes my heart happy, makes their heart happy. It's just a fun time, and I really enjoy it. The audiobooks are super fun. These are like really fast reads, but this one I really liked just for the character relationships that were being developed. And also, this is one of my comfort series, and I was having just a really anxious time when I read this. I get these random like spurts of anxiety that are really bad. We don't need to talk about it here. I'm sure we have talked about it in the weekly vlog, and we will talk about it once more when it pops up again, but this is just one of those this is a series that's like a balm to the soul for me, and I just love it. It's just so fun. And then next we have our 4 5-star reads. This month, well, these 2 months, I suppose, were so good. Like, they were so, because here's the thing, I didn't have a ton of 5 stars, but the ones I had were 5 stars. Here's the problem. The one I would say is probably my top 5-star is The Final Strife. I do not know how I will pitch this book to you, because it's one of those ones that you go in knowing one part of the synopsis, but you come out with this other entire, like, everything's different. Nothing is as it seems. Everything's changed. Everything has changed, and I'm so excited to get to the Battle Drum, which is the 2nd, but I'm holding off because the 3rd one comes out in August, and I know I'm just gonna be mad at the end of the battle drum because I'm gonna be mad at myself for having read it and not have the third one in hand. Like, I can't do it to myself. So I'm gonna have to wait until my library gets the third one, and then I get in line for it, and then I'll grab the battle drum because I have a copy of that, because that's when I was buying books, y'all. So it's there. And the tension between me and that book, every time I walk by to let Jake outside, the book is on a bookshelf that's back there, and I'm like, and he looks at me and I look at him. But this world, we have 3 kinds of blood. That's kind of the hierarchy here. So you have the higher ups that do have magic. They have the ability to do magic. And then you have people that are below that can't do magic. My brain's trying to work. 1 second. Okay, no, I was right. So you have red, which is the blood of the elite, the people who are like quote unquote on top. Then you have blue blood, which is the working class and the resistance level of the society. And then you have a level below the resistance and the workers, who are the people that are enslaved, and they are kind of like almost not even seen, and they have clear blood. And our main character, Scylla, she was being trained to head the resistance and the revolutionary group that she is a part of within the blue blood portion of society. And she then saw her entire family killed before her in the entire resistance group. So she's living life thinking that that has been completely snuffed out and it's not going to happen anymore. And so she is really just surviving. Like, she is just trying to make it through and get through, not even day to day, but like hour to hour. And then we have Honor, who is another point of view that we get, who is on the flip side of things, the daughter of the most powerful woman in this empire. And she is not living up to her mom's expectations at all. She is not able really to fight. She's not very strong. She's not, what her mom says, very smart. Like, she's just not enough of everything, it seems like, to her mom. And so she, when we are in her point of view, I would like to fight her mother. Like, she is awful. She is just awful. Okay, y'all, so that cut me off in the middle of talking, which is rude, but I'm not gonna lie to you, it is hotter than hell right now. It's only 85 degrees, but it's still super hot. Where was I? I think I was about to talk about Hassa, which is our third and final POV in this world. I do have my fan on, and it feels like it might be a little loud, but I need it. It's hot. We're just gonna try and live. But Hassa is one of the, do they call them the ghosts or the ghostlings? I can't remember. There's a like specific term they use, but she has clear blood, so she is of the lowest ranking. So we have Hassa, and then we have Scylla, and then we have Honor. So we have our 3 people. They each are part of, from like each part of society, and they all intertwingle beautifully and perfectly. Scylla and Hassa are friends, and then Scylla and Honor's path intertwingles in an unexpected way. This one has trials. If you are into that kind of plot point, there is very much like the romantic duo has that thing of one of them is training the other to participate in these trials. All 3 of them, Scylla, Honor, and Hassa, team up together in a way for everything that's going on within the empire. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it away, but it is probably what you're thinking, and then a lot more. Like, a lot more that you're not expecting. And it was just so good. The writing is so good. It's so like, I don't know, it's just so direct and intense, but also very beautifully written. It was just a perfect merriment of, very intense, very descriptive scenes, but also not flowery, but the prose was still very beautiful. I just really enjoyed this one, and I am so excited to get to the next one and then the final. Like, I feel like so much is gonna happen, and I don't know. My friend has already read the second one, or the majority of it at least, and is like, oh my god. I cannot even explain to you how much more intense everything got, and I'm nervous and excited because I haven't seen anyone say that the second book has second book syndrome, so to me is a very good sign. Then I read The Warm Hands of Ghosts, and I was so shocked at how much I loved this. This was so good. This was actually, this category honestly is more like the Final Strife and this one are 6-star books. The other 2 are 5, but these 2 are 6-star books for sure. And this one is set during World War I, and we have two points of views that we're going from. The first one is our female main character, and the other one is her brother, who has been drafted into the war. And what happens is our female main character is at home. She has just gotten back home because she was a nurse within the front lines, and she gets news. Well, not really. So she gets kind of the stuff to say that her brother has passed, but there's clues and there's things that don't add up and don't make sense. So she sets off to go back to the front to try to find him, and he has gotten tied up in this almost mythical legend character that is said to haunt the front lines of this war. And it was so good. I would say this is a gothic historical novel. I really feel like it just did everything it did so well. Everything it did was to a 10. Like, it was just perfection. And I just loved it so much. And I did not expect to at all. Like, I'm still so surprised because I don't love historical. I don't know anything about really World War I to be, you know, for that to be some reason that I would start it. I just started it because this cover reminds me of the London Seance Society, and I thought, well, I loved that one and didn't see that coming, so let's do this one. And it was the same thing. So y'all, I guess what I'm trying to say is judge a book by its cover. You'll probably be right. So then, like I said, the next final two books are some thrillers. The first one is First Lie Wins. This one is a time and a half. Okay, so in this one, we have our main character, Evie Porter, who is not Evie Porter. She works for this mysterious boss of hers called Mr. Smith, and what he does is he gives her a name, a location, and a job. And her job is to get whatever information that he is needing from whatever person he has given her at whatever location she now has. And it's kind of a get it at all costs kind of thing. And whatever you need to do is what you're gonna do. So she tends to go under like deep cover to do these things, and in this one she finds that it's different because she's actually starting to like actually fall for the person that she is pretending to be in a relationship with for this one. She has to get information on him for something, like it's typically criminal activity that Mr. Smith is looking for to then use against the people, right? And she realizes that she is in over her head with this one. Not in the sense that she can't handle it, but that she's like, okay, actually, what's going on? And do I agree with this anymore? I don't think so. Let's investigate. So she's trying to figure out who Mr. Smith is. She's trying to figure out what it is that he wants from her boyfriend, who her boyfriend even really is. There's just a lot going on. And all of it was entertaining. All of it was so fun. I just really, really enjoyed this one. And I would highly recommend if you want like a very, very, very fast-paced, intense thriller. That would be such a good movie. Like it was such a fun time. And then the final one was The New Couple in 5B. This author was a miss for me previously, but this was an absolute hit. And I actually do dabble in saying that this might be a 6-star read for me as well. I'm just not 100% sure, but we will see. You'll notice in my 6-star reads that aren't fantasy, it tends to be ones that are gothic and have a paranormal old school horror vibe to them. This one definitely does. This couple inherits a very nice, I was picturing the apartments from, oh gosh, what is that show? I just was thinking about it. Selena Gomez is in it. Steve Martin is in it. I can hear it playing in my head. I can't think of it. But all of those apartments that are so beautiful in that show. Oh my god. Only Murders in the Building. There you go. Only Murders in the Building. Those apartments are what I was picturing. They basically inherit one of the nicest apartments within this apartment building that are millions and millions of dollars from the husband's uncle who has just passed away. I think it's an uncle. Perhaps it's an uncle. Anywho, so the wife, you know, they are just kind of like super excited about this. They're both going pretty well in their careers. They're trying to have a kid. Things are looking up and up. And then she starts to see some ghosts in these apartments. And she's like, am I going crazy or is this paranormal activity? 5. What's happening right now? What's going on? And then she starts to get these little hints and messages from people around her that are like, hey, your husband's not who he says he is. Oh, hey, by the way, none of that's true. What are you doing? You need to get out. You're in danger, girl. And she's like, yeah, I'm in danger, girl. There's a ghost next door. And it just kind of spirals from there. This book felt like peak American Horror Story times. Like when the show was still good, this should have been Hotel. This is what I wish that had been. It was just such a fun time. I just enjoyed it so much. It also made me so sad. And it was a little bit of a tearjerker, but the plot twist was so solid. It reminded me of both the best elements of Home Before Dark and Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. It was just such a good time. So I would highly recommend, especially like read this when the sun goes down, because you will be scared. And it is a fun time. So just do it. So anyways, those are the books that I have read within the last 2 months. 18 books. We've got a few more. Some of them are right here that we're going to talk about next month of reading in March. Oh, I guess this month we'll talk about it. Wait, read in March? I already talked about what I read in March. These are April. Hey, good morning. I just woke up. How are you? Thank you so much for watching this. If you made it all the way through, please leave down a ghost. Oh my god. There's a little gnat. No. Oh, it's summer. I hate these little bugs. Okay. Leave down a ghost emoji if you've made it this far. You could also leave down a dog emoji because Jake has been very nicely watching me from the bed this entire time. He's very loyal. Loves long filming time. Make sure that you drink your water, that you be kind to yourself and everybody around you, and also go have a good day on purpose because you definitely deserve to have one of those. And then to do that, you should pick up one of my 5-star reads because they were so good. They were so fun and also fresh, and I highly do recommend all of them. I will see you guys in the next weekly vlog. Hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. All the good times just begun.